What's going on, Port fans? Welcome back to another video on my channel, and today we'll be previewing Port Adelaide's clash with the Bulldogs on Thursday night for round 13. So let's get straight into it and have a look and see exactly what this game is going to bring on Thursday night. Let's get straight into this preview. It's going to be a big game for us as a club and as a team, not because of who we're playing and the circumstances, but more the fact that internally we're looking for that consistency. And this is going to be one game that we need to put down in the book. It's a game that we should win against the Bulldogs, who aren't in the best of form, and we should win quite comfortably. But in saying that, the weather's going to play a big part. I think it's going to be 15 degrees and absolutely pouring down with rain, and it's going to be typical winter weather, but that shouldn't degrade the fact that we need to win and win quite well. To a couple of factors: get a bigger percentage, we need to add some percent to that, and also prime time, where it's a big game for the club. We're not usually on the national stage. We proved that last week against the Tigers, where we got a good win on Friday night footy. And we just need to continue that consistency and get consistency in our game, because we can't win one week against a good side and then back it up next week with a poor performance against the Dogs. It's a non-negotiable. This week has to be another foot to the throat performance, four-quarter effort. Keep that, get that consistency going in our game, and kick a few more goals than 10 or 11 a game. I know it's going to be wet and it'll be tough to score, but nonetheless, we need to get a few goals on the board, and it has to start against a team that's not going to be a contender. It's lowly ranked, and I wouldn't write off the Bulldogs. They're definitely a potent team, and no doubt they can come across and snatch this victory and, cause an upset. That's all in the mindset of them. It's all in the mindset of us. But in saying that, you'd expect Port to win quite comfortably. As I said, the weather's going to be pretty poor. Thursday night footy, not expecting a huge crowd. It's not, the Bulldogs never really draw that well as a crowd. So if we can get between 35 to 40,000, I think that's probably be acceptable. I'd like to get over 40,000, but in the wet, you'd probably not expect that to happen on a Thursday night. The kids have got school the next day, and as a Thursday night game, I'd like to know your thoughts, guys, on Thursday night footy. I personally like it, but I don't want it to be a regular fixture. I think as a standalone game every couple of weeks, there's 7 or 8 per year maybe, it's fine. I mean, I'm happy with that, but every single week it's going to be so tough. And I think if you can schedule it in the school holidays, then definitely it's a massive draw card game. But when it's in the buys, Thursday night, in school, during the school holiday, and not during the school holidays, during the school calendar, yeah, I wouldn't be having too many of those, because you won't get the big enough crowds, and not a lot of people like Thursday nights anyway. And you've got people that travel from the country, you've got people that work the next day as well, retail workers as well who work on Thursday nights. It's a tough schedule to have, and yes, it's a good different point of view to have a game on a Thursday night, but I wouldn't have it every week. But nonetheless, my team's playing, of course I'm going to go. It's the Portress as well, come on. As well, Thursday night, the first M&D event outside of Victoria as well from the MCG that happened on Monday afternoon with all the 18 coaches, and how good Kenny looked too in his little panda suit. That was cute. So well done to Kenny and all the 18 coaches helping Neil Danaher and fight MND, which was a great cause, and it's coming to Adelaide Oval this Thursday night. Make sure, if you haven't already, grab your MND beanie from the game. They haven't, I think they have sold out online, but there'll be some available on Thursday night at the Adelaide Oval, so make sure if you can, grab one of those. 20 bucks. It's a special cause, and anything to support Neil Danaher and the footy community fighting MND, which is a horrible, horrible disease, and we need to get behind and find a cure today. By the way, can we just take a second to acknowledge how decent looking this beanie is? It is absolutely sensational, the Never Tear Us Apart looking beanie there. Back to the footy now. I think a four-quarter performance is needed this week. We had one last week, but we were a bit sluggish in front of goal as well. But the main thing I wanted to point out is the fact that we can't have this one quarter which is fantastic and then fall into our shell a little bit, still play quite well, but we need to attack that scoreboard a bit more. I think in the second half last week we went a bit defensive in our game plan. We didn't attack the ball and attack the corridor as much. We went down the line, kicking to packs. I think this week it's going to be wet, so you can't always take on the game. You're going to have to pick your moment. Another thing as well, the Bulldogs coming over, that means Jackson Trengove will be playing this week against his old side, Port Adelaide, back at the Fortress. Interesting thing here, he left on good terms, I'd say, from the club. Just wanted more opportunity, wasn't getting it, with Kenny looking into the future a bit in defence, so and his role wasn't working out down forward, and he's now coming across with the Dogs, being a defender, probably play on the big Charlie Dixon, so that'll be interesting to see. And will we boo him? That's another thing we've got to take into account. I personally, I like Jacko, and I think he's done a great thing playing 150 games for the club, and he was just looking for another opportunity. So it's a tough one. Will you boo or not? I won't. That's as simple as that. And saying that, you know, if he gets a chance to go on the ruck, he's going to go up against his nemesis in Paddy Ryder. And let's just say Paddy Ryder's going to jump all over him like a jumping jack on a jumping castle. And he's going to jump all over Jackson Trengove and Jordan Roughhead as well. So big task for the Dogs in the ruck contest as well. And we, you know, in the middle, that's going to be a big thing as well. Clearances, we are the number one in the competition. The Bulldogs are 8th. We get a lot more hit outs. We get give more opportunity to our forwards, and that's going to be a big thing. Especially in the wet, as I said last week, which didn't end up raining, but this week it's almost certain it's going to rain. So getting that meterage down forward, keeping it inside 50s, which we're pretty even on both teams. So grabbing those clearances and really being that contested team with players like SPP, Wingard, who plays in the middle now. You've got Ollie Wines, Rockcliffe as well, even Boak when he goes in there. All these contested players are really going to have to dig deep and get the ball out, give first hands to players like Bonner, players like Pollock, Sam Gray, who goes up in the middle a bit more now as well, seems to grab the footy around the contest and, you know, really spreading and getting a lot of run going forward. All right, changes for this week, I think. Just the one change for Port Adelaide, I feel. Although Kenny doesn't usually make changes after a win anyway, but I think this one's needed, and it's needed for a while. And I say needed because that's the pun. Jake Need. Sorry, mate. 2 tackles, 9 disposals, no goals. No goals for the last 5 weeks. What are you doing in the AFL side, mate? You're not there for pressure. Well, you are there for pressure. That's your job role. But you also have to hit the scoreboard. And unfortunately, not getting the job done. So I think you come out, mate. You have to get some form in the SANFL. And in comes Lindsay Thomas. Served his suspension. The last 2 weeks, he's been pretty good for the Maggies. 4 and 3 goals. And I reckon he's finding a bit of touch. So a bit of class in the weather might be handy for Port on Thursday night. So I reckon Lindsay Thomas comes in. Other than that, maybe Jack Trengove gets a go. Maybe Carl Amon comes in. Don Barry's been in some good form as well. So we'll have to wait and see how that pans out, but I think no changes might not even be made. Kenny doesn't like making changes after a win. Alright, just before I finish up the preview, just a quick little look at the Magpies. They're playing Stir on Saturday afternoon at Adelaide Oval, so make sure you get down there and support the Maggies. A big game after a good win last week. Didn't mention them in the review, unfortunately. Missed them. I don't know how I did that, but they had a great win last week, and players like Thomas and Trengove as well, Amon stood up. They all played a part, especially after it was a pretty poor first quarter, if you ask me. But this week, Sturt, hopefully they can back it up at Adelaide Oval, and it should be a good game of footy. I really like the way the Maggies have now turned their form around a bit, and still have a chance of making this year's SANFL finals and making something out of 2018, dreaded by injuries with Mackenzie and Leonard out especially as well. And Todd Marshall, who looks to be making a bit of form, so he might come back into the AFL side very soon. But hopefully the Magpies get the job done. I feel they will. Let's look at the predictions for this week. I feel Port Adelaide will get the job done quite easily. I think the weather will hinder the score a bit more. I think we'll dominate quite well. And we'll end up winning by 31 points. I feel quite a comfortable win. And for me, someone who needs probably, well, he seems to do quite well when he's down there in the rain as well. Robbie Gray will kick a bag this week. 4+ goals from him. And really continue a phenomenal season that he's having. And basically, I reckon you can lock him in for the All-Australian at this stage. He's been phenomenal. Alright, Port fans, that wraps up this round 13 preview of Port Adelaide versus the Western Bulldogs. Thursday night footy. Make sure you get to the Fortress, even though the weather doesn't look the greatest. Still get out, support the boys, buy a poncho, don't get too wet, and hopefully we'll get the job done, which I think we will. Thank you very much for everyone on Spreaker for tuning in as well. Really appreciate the support on Port Fan Radio. And speaking of Port Fan Radio, the Porches podcast, 8 PM every Wednesday night. So make sure you check that out on Spreaker through the Port Fan Radio network. Also, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe for plenty more Port Adelaide content coming to you on a weekly basis, round by round previews, reviews, vlogs at all home games, and on the odd occasion I head to open training to talk to the boys and ask them a few questions as well. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Thank you very much for tuning in as well, Port fans. My name is Anthony, and as always, calm the pants.